So this is actually based on some real research, meaning that what clients have actually told me in market. So advertising sales in 2023, here's stuff that you hear, and this goes for consumer and also for B2B. But if you're on the consumer side, you tend to hear things like from sales. And this is no diss on anybody. This is just what's happening out there. The media planner changed. I need to get to know the new person. It's a soft year. Ad sales will come back. No, they won't. The sales sheet was late. I needed more time to sell. Editorial needs to communicate better, and on and on and on. So that's the usual stuff that we all hear. So what is actually going on in market, and what's driving all these gaps in actually being able to close sales? And this is the stuff that I've certainly found out in market. So sharing some secrets with you here. Advertisers don't actually want to buy what we're structured to sell. And I know that's a really tough pill to swallow, but it's actually true. And I'm going to get into the whys behind that. It doesn't mean they don't want our audiences. It doesn't mean they don't want our brands. It doesn't mean they don't want to work with us. It's just the things that we're selling them on rate cards aren't necessarily the things that they currently want to purchase. So that's the hard truth there. So let's talk about three key client trends that are going on right now. So, and this is specific, this one's really true in the consumer space. Many clients are no longer making magazine ad creative, and that's print magazine creative. And that's a problem. So you're out there trying to sell, you're selling in an audience, you're selling your proposition, you're selling their brand, and you've also got a client who isn't actually making print creative. So that's what I mean by they don't want to buy what we want to sell, what we sell. So not only do they find less advertisers in campaigns, they're not investing in developing creative assets to run in these placements. And a lot of this is actually holds true for digital, regular run of site advertising as well. So that's hard truth number one. Media buying cycles have drastically changed, and that's across B2C and B2B. And by that, I mean, it used to be back in the olden golden days where, there'd kind of be one big season and people would plan out for the year, and you could work very, very hard and make some presentations and cinch some really great advertising dollars. But because advertising budgets and cycles have changed, they've become less predictable. So what's basically happening, and I don't know if you guys are seeing this in market, I certainly am, is that you get a lot of people buying front half and back half, or first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and then pivoting. This has created a real sea change in how advertisers and media agencies and media sellers work with media brands. So it means that you kind of more effort in sales and out there all the time and being there at the right time. So that's just a matter of what is actually going on. Media buys based on reach, volume, and frequency are dead. That is an old metric, and but I've got some good news here for magazine brands on what is up and coming. And most of our rate cards are also based on, by the way, reach, volume, and frequency. And that's also the way that many of our sales teams are trained to sell. So you can see that that's also a gap in terms of what people are looking to purchase. So not all doom and gloom. I'm going to get to the good stuff. Here's what advertisers are looking for. They're looking for, and I hear these words repeated over and over, no matter what type of a brand that I'm working with. They're looking for discovery, they're looking for engagement, and they're looking for conversion. So again, the days of reach, volume, and frequency, it's not about that anymore. It's about the right audience at the right time that's basically set up to convert and purchase. So it's no longer about, I'll use an example in the automotive sector, it's no longer about sort of the pray and spray approach to advertising, which was all about let's get mass, let's get huge, let's get out there and get everybody who could possibly drive a car in Canada. This is now about, for example, finding, the 50 women that live in an urban center that are most likely to buy an e-car from, a European premium brand. This is more about really, really tailoring that premium audience and helping make that connection to that potential purchaser. So again, different. So the new media model is about bold innovation and value creation, but I don't just mean that loosely. What I really mean is about value creation for your advertisers and whoever your partners are that you're working with. So what is the value proposition that we have as publishers for advertisers? And there's a really compelling answer here. So we can offer, our value proposition are I put it into three buckets. One is domain authority. Domain authority is a really good thing, and that basically is how your website ranks. It's how your brand ranks. And by that, I mean premium. You're premium, your audiences are premium, they're qualified, they live in your world, and you've got that really, really good thing, which is you've got, for the most part, with your email databases, with your subscribers, you've got first-party data rights to communicate with them, which is something that most advertisers are looking for. You've got high consumer engagement. That is the art of publishing. You've always known how to do it. You know, I know everybody's big into the world of SEO and, you know, writing for the Google algorithm, et cetera. But, you know, really writing consumer first, really writing, you know, for that audience is kind of the way to go. And we know how to engage with those audiences. And that's something we can bring to the table for advertisers. We also have quality audiences, meaning that they're interested in what it is that we have to say to them, and they trust our voice in order to speak to them. So those three things, domain authority, premium, consumer engagement, premium, and quality audiences, premium, is really, I think, where the magic lies with magazine brands and newspaper brands as well, publishing brands in general. So what can publishers offer? What is our value proposition? We can turn those quality in audiences into customers. That's a very compelling proposition. It's a drastically different model than selling traditional print and digital advertising. It means that it's a very consultative type of sale. I'm going to show you the types of things that I go out and talk to advertisers about that resonates. But it does have, there are impacts. There's impact to a traditional sales team, the structure and the skill sets required. And there is also impact to traditional editorial teams, just because you're asking the two to work together in a very different way. But because there's success in the end of it, and because it's based in premium quality content, quality audiences, it's usually a much nicer conversation than, hey, can you run this really, you know, no offense to anybody, mediocre advertorial that doesn't look like the rest of our environment. This is a different game. So we need to shift from transactional ad sales to consultative selling. Makes it sound easy, but really it's the idea about content solutions based on client engagement metrics, a different language for sales. And this is where the difference really comes in. Publishers can provide exceptional value to advertisers based on our domain authority. I'm going to give you an example of what that domain authority looks like. So here we go a little bit here. So what does good look like in the world of domain authority? So industry benchmarks, and if you go on, and there are websites where you can go and just have, you know, free and check domain authority of any brand and any website. So what does good look like? So an industry benchmark, average is 40 to 50 out of 100, 50 to 60 is good, 60 plus is excellent. So that is now in the world of excellence. Let me show you some publishing brands. So when I was at FIPP, I picked Vogue just because it's one that's international, everybody knows it. So the domain authority for Vogue, not surprisingly, is really, really high. It's 90. That is off the charts, insanely big. Associating yourself with them, we know, has always been good in terms of if you're in the fashion space. You know, you've got, you know, the name Vogue. It's a noun, it's a verb, it's used to describe things, etc. It's in our lexicon. But that's Vogue, and you think, okay, great. How do some of our little old Canadian brands do? And I'm going to speak from the perspective of the brands that I work on, just because I have them handy. So what can publishers offer? Here we go. So Maclean's has a domain authority of 82. Chatelaine is 78. Toronto Life 78. Canadian Business is 77. These are excellent, excellent domain authority rankings that basically puts your brand out there as almost a Trojan horse show pony for other brands, meaning advertising brands, to partner with. Basically, if the way you think about domain authority is anything that links back to or is referred to by these brands in a digital space will lift all the boats. So if you have, for example, Maclean's and you've got a domain authority of 82 and you've got Volvo that want to advertise in Maclean's digitally, if you're writing an article for them and it's SEO optimized and there's backlinks from Maclean's, Volvo is getting the benefit of that really great domain authority and raising their authority, which raises their discoverability. So that's a little bit of a, I know I'm getting super 101, but I just think it helps to kind of set that context. So why does it matter? As I just said, domain authority drives authority, discoverability, engagement, and quality sources, which all happen to be, if you add in some video, all the things that Google and the Google algorithm currently prioritizes. This is a very, very good thing. It's also the types of things that Facebook prioritizes, TikTok prioritizes, and all the main platforms. So basically this is kind of a repositioning of your value and what it is you're out there talking to customers about. Publishers can provide exceptional value to advertisers based on our reader engagement. Now, we've always known this. What I love right now from a digital perspective is what I go out and I talk to advertisers about are all the traditional publishing metrics that you would use for your regular content. Time spent, scroll depth, right? Completion rates, all of that stuff really, really matters, and we know how to do that. So engagement metrics are redefining content solutions, and if you're offering a suite of scalable initiatives out to clients where they can get incredible engagement across all the platforms that you're on, and in this case, I'm going to talk print, digital, social, and video, you're offering a really compelling solution that has metrics and KPIs tied to it. So what can publishers offer? What's our value proposition? Going beyond that traditional rate card, we can offer our highly valuable first-party data, our opt-in databases. Do not forget, in this world of everybody spending all their time being concerned about and talking about AI, that quietly in the background, Google is about to remove third-party cookies. That will be a very, very, even though we all knew it was coming for years, that is going to be a sea change for advertisers who some of which will go into a panic that they can no longer retarget and go after advertisers the way that they could with digital advertising and programmatic. So this puts publishers in a very interesting opportunity. I would start talking about first-party opt-in database strategies now. We've got exceptionally high domain authority. We've got engaged audiences with relevant and high-quality content. I'm just going to keep repeating that over and over and over because that is our point of differentiation. So new media model, leveraging our premium brands across all platforms. This just shows you, yes, we all show our ecosystems and our combined audiences and the deeper layer that we can go into, working with advertisers. Absolutely. But it's quality audiences driving conversion. That's the difference. And what is conversion and what are conversion events? And that's, again, a new language for advertisers. So I talk about things like, this is our total audience across Canada. We reach 58% of English Canada, the usual. How do we get that into another world? I talk about our opt-in databases, our uniques, all that stuff. You guys have seen all that before, but here's the real magic. Here's the new language for sales. Oops, apparently I like that comment so much I like to repeat it. So the customer journey, I'm going to go back to, and then I'll get into the language. So content plays a role. It used to play a role very much, and media brands very much played a role, I would say magazine brands, in that awareness phase, which was the top of the funnel for, getting a customer in and getting them to do something, whether it is to purchase something, sign up for something, etc. What's happened, though, because of mobile adoption and digital transformation and e-commerce, etc., is that content has a place to convert a customer at every single stage in the funnel. So you can now work with advertisers in a way that you never could before, just because the capability is built into, frankly, the device that's in the palm of everybody's hand, their mobile device. So awareness, findability, reputation, conversion, experience. I'm going to describe what these things are a little bit deeper, but keep in mind that your magazine content can play a role in every single stage here, and that is a sea change. So we can create, as publishers, multimedia content ecosystems that reach customers. They reach customers, they drive quality audiences, deriving those conversion events. And the stuff in the black I've listed as that's kind of the usual channels that we would talk about with advertisers. Hey, do you want to do something print, digital, social? You can tell I wrote this pre-X being launched. Newsletters are massive because they convert really, really well. Video, audio, etc. But the piece that's kind of adjacent to that are, you've got advertisers now who are interested in conversion and interacting with our audiences. So it's live events, it's experimental, experiential, it's branded content, e-commerce, affiliate links, shoppable content, SEO and linking strategies. So backlinks, paid backlinks done in a very, tasteful way that is working with editorial, where you've literally got advertisers that you're working with branded content articles, backlinking to their content is a real opportunity. Awards, rankings, product testing, product reviews. Do not forget that you've got an amazing audience with whatever publication you're working on, of consumers who matter and their opinions matter. So I've done entire programs through, for example, like a Chatelaine, where it might only be around customers basically writing reviews on products that they've tried. That is highly, highly valuable to an advertiser beyond straight up advertising. So hope this starts to paint the picture a little bit better. Marketing objectives. So driving conversion events for advertisers that are aligned to their marketing objectives. Very different conversation again for the sales team to be having with advertisers, but think about the things that they are looking for. It's not just audience. Yes, it's the right person at the right time and at the right price, but it's about impressions, or it could be about click-through, shares, first-party database, leads, drive to consultation, drive to e-com, drive to retail, drive to product trial, direct-to-consumer purchase, which you can do through your brands, product ratings and product reviews. This is a very different menu of items to be able to offer up when you're out having those sales conversations. And it allows you to create integrated programs that are completely designed to deliver on whatever objective that the client may have. So again, a very different language, very much based on objectives, but the idea of pre-setting what these KPIs are before an ideation starts to happen with your team in terms of a solution for a partner, you can create some real magic. And you can also create programs for advertisers that you can repeat, because you're now in the position of having some data and being able to set benchmarks and deciding what good looks like, et cetera. So hopefully this is helpful. Other part of our value proposition, there's a tremendous opportunity, I would say, for publishers to focus on content that converts. So whether that is service content, start thinking about your service content in a very different way. Branded content, shoppable content, and that can be across all of your platforms. E-newsletters are probably one of our best secret weapons. The open rates that publishers see compared to the open rates that you would see in a brand, an advertising brand e-newsletter, are off the charts crazy. Like, I'll give you an example. I do a lot of work with L'Oreal Canada. When I do programs with them and I tell their teams, their marketing teams, what the open rates are on a Chatelaine e-newsletter or, Hello Magazine, et cetera, they're blown away. So do not underestimate that value. And again, start thinking about what it is that the advertisers actually value when you're going to price these things, because this is now in a different league in terms of what they will pay for and what they value, because they do see a return. I hope that makes sense. First party data strategies. So I kind of lump it into 3 buckets here. And these are the things that customers are looking for. So if you can find a way to wrap your media brand around these objectives, the objectives being traffic generation for a brand. How do you amplify campaigns across digital and social to drive to a specific event that an advertiser is having or doing? New customer acquisition and customer retention. So, anytime that you can create a program where you're helping an advertiser to find more customers that look like the premium customers that you already have, that's the way to do it. And there's tricks that you can do where you partner with, we've all done it. You partner with, like a Meta, and you boost programs, or you're doing lookalike audiences, or if you have your own proprietary audience generation, whatever, tech stack you have within your company, there's ways to do it low tech, as in you do it, use a tech solution, but you're just paying for the service with Meta, or there's ways to do it where you're doing it within your own ecosystem. You can do that, but also really first-party data strategies that drive conversion events. So helping, getting people to really, build up your first-party audiences so that you've maxed out there, so that you've got the optimum, e-newsletter or e-newsletters plural, or you've created some content strategies that nicely map to your content buckets and silos that you can start driving audiences to. This will really be attractive to advertisers. So beyond advertising and driving value for partners, so I've repeated this a little bit, but I'm just going to throw it up here on the screen again, because this is the stuff that I have conversations around with every advertiser that I certainly work with. So, driving SEO and content strategies, and that could be literally, I'll give you an idea of what that looks like. That could be working with an advertiser to basically help them to write content for their own platforms, but you're white labeling it using all your publisher principles. They're paying you a premium to do it, and you're also working into that a backlinking strategy for them to, again, match those objectives. Video strategies. And video is great, and there's some simple ways to do video. We've got a whole bunch of different tricks that we use, whether it is good old little simple animated GIFs, handing a still photographer a video camera just to shoot some pans, animating stills so that it looks like it's video. Anything that moves gets really great high engagement rates in terms of open rates. Shoppable content. And by that, I'm going to show you a video at the end of some actual interactive shoppable video that we're doing. There are really great platforms out there. It doesn't have to cost the earth, and you do not need to spend $1 million and go and build a whole video department. There's really simple plug and play solutions. First-party data strategies, I can't stress enough. That one is going to be huge, particularly in the consumer world. B2B is a little less, exposed when it comes to first-party data, just because you typically are dealing with institutions, associations, and people that have allowed you and given you permission to talk to them. But anything around customer acquisition, you're going to want first-party data. Data relationship marketing. So how do you get people to give you their information? How do you, actually drive up that first party data? Are you offering, for example, a tactic there might be to do something like work with an advertiser, come up with some kind of a premium content product. Maybe it's a little ebook, recipe book or something that you're offering up to customers who sign up. Doing some things in partnership with your advertisers where you're not giving away all the data too is a really smart way to go about this. Traffic generation, how do you drive traffic to really premium content plays that you've got happening with advertisers, but also with editorial. One thing I do want to say here is a lot of this stuff, what I tend to do, and I'm going to show you some actual tangible examples in a minute. What I tend to do when we do these things is a lot of them I've tested out in editorial first, just as a proof of concept to show that they work. So that might be an option for some of you. Audience acquisition, branded content. Branded content is a gold mine, and it doesn't mean selling your soul. It means creating really deep quality content experiences using all of the expertise that you have within your brand, but doing things that are smart. It doesn't mean selling your soul and doing really cheesy advertorials. The world's gone well beyond that, and consumers do turn a blind eye to it. That's not just my professional view, that's my personal view as a media junkie and somebody who loves media brands. You can sniff it out. If it's not smart, it doesn't make sense. So, and at some point, I will explain to everybody, if you want to know, I do have 7 rules for doing branded content. And the number 1 is it has to be good. And yes, that's very subjective, but I'm staying in that lane. So driving discoverability, engagement, and conversion. That's a very different language and approach to working with an advertising partner versus, going out with a rate card and selling a thing to them. It does require, and I say selling a thing to them because this is not on a rate card. Pieces of it could be, and you can quantify what that looks like. But this is a very consultative sell. You're basically delivering publishing solutions to a customer. And I'm just going to keep going here. So here's some examples, and hopefully this will kind of bring it home a little bit. So this is one that we did probably, I guess, the beginning of last spring. And this was with Sobeys, with Chatelaine. And I'm doing this to give you an example of new customer acquisition first-party data. So the objective here with Sobeys, and you know how big Sobeys is and all of its right across the country, grocery. They wanted new customer email acquisition and first-party data. So that's Sounds like it's easy, but it's really, really hard when you're working with a brand that already reaches whatever 9 million Canadians. So how do you, what does going up look like even? So our approach was basically to take a performance marketing approach. And basically what we did was super simple. We worked with Chatelaine. We created a contest. We created a really beautiful co-branded ebook that was all around recipes. And we basically threw out a campaign and asked people to sign up for this contest. And every single person that signed up and gave data got the ebook. And basically, we were able to leverage what we already knew about Chatelaine audiences and who is likely to respond to this, and then go out to a larger lookalike audience that were people that were, again, foodies, people that would, moms, et cetera, all the demographics that we had to hit. We ended up delivering, and I don't know if I have the results on that one. Oh, here we go. So here's what we did, and the results are exceptional for this. We delivered, it was a 6-week campaign. We delivered the full target within the first 2 weeks. And part of that is because Sobeys basically gave up the reins and allowed Chatelaine to do its job as a publisher and somebody who understands what matters to women. And the target audience. So we exceeded 190% of the email acquisition target, got to keep our jobs, got to do it again, happy times. They also paid a premium for this well outside of the any rate card for advertising. 80% of the subscribers we signed up were new to Sobeys, which is exceptional when you think about that. You can see we downloaded 13,000 ebooks, the total impressions. But what's really, really great is take a look at the number at the bottom. 90% of the people that signed up for this thing signed up because of the Chatelaine branded promos, not the ones that came from Sobeys, because we also tested those. So real proof that communications that come out from a trusted brand that people have opted in to receive from will respond. So I just wanted to share that with you, that that's a possible, tangible example. Here's another one, and this one had a video to it, but you can look it up on Chatelaine. Basically, this was working with Vichy. Again, this was also Chatelaine. And Vichy basically, this is the old, nothing's new, it's just how we did it. Vichy launched this this MarTech platform on mobile called Skin Consult AI. Basically, you take a picture of your skin, you answer some questions, and it diagnoses your condition, your age, etc., and then it offers you up Surprise 3 or 4 products that you need for your routine. But it's actually a really, really cool app. It's a complicated app. So they asked us to, come up with a program that helped them to launch it and also to explain what it was. So we took 3 real Chatelaine readers, vastly different in their demographic. We created a video that you can't see here, but I will share afterwards. And this was the cornerstone of the actual content. And the video was basically, essentially, it was a 1-minute commercial showing each of these women on their mobile devices using the app. So it gave the 1, 2, 3, how you do it. It showed the result. It showed, how that worked. We then took that video and we went old school. We went back into print. We did a double-page spread on skin consultation on demand, showed the steps. I love this question. I'm going to answer that in a second, Chad. Thank you. Hang on. I'm very distracted by your question right now. Good. We kept it very simple. We showed products. We threw a QR code into it for subscribers that want to click and go. We also ran branded content, and there's an article that contained the video as the feature piece. We ran co-branded social posts that drove to Vichy, and our entire objective here was app downloads and sign up. So this was a very specific process, but because we did it the Chatelaine way, and because we did it through Chatelaine and with our crazy open rates, we were able to deliver exceptional results for Vichy, well beyond anything that they tested that they had done without Chatelaine. So the question from Chad, do you have any concerns that the advertiser won't need you if they acquire your reader's email list? They're not acquiring your emails list. That you still own that. They're acquiring their own list of people that have opted into them. They will definitely need you. And actually, I have no concerns. I also maybe I have rose-colored glasses, but I also believe it's better to partner with people than to try and be exclusive and work on your own. So depending on what it is and depending on what you give away, you've also got double opt-ins that happen and it all depends how you set your preferences for privacy. And I recommend setting it in two sections. One is I opt in to hear from magazine brand. Number two would be I opt in to hear from advertiser brand, and that will quickly separate the two. The only list that the advertiser can actually have and use are the ones that opt to hear from the advertiser. So hopefully that kind of sets the stage a little bit. Good question though, Chad. Got thumbs up for that one. Here's the results off of the Vichy Skin Consult AI program. We knew that the content was, we also did a research survey, a pre and a post as well. We did just via an e-survey, but we had something that Vichy had never seen before, meaning that we had incredibly high click-through rates because the content came from Chatelaine and was in the context. So you can see that 4.14 minutes was the average time spent with the content. That is off the charts insane. If you are one, a media brand, but also two, an advertising brand. We had a crazy high engagement rate, rate on Instagram. You can see this is the big one though, the money slide. Our lift in purchase intent for the client was 143%. And awareness from that campaign was 115%. The only place that this campaign ran was Chatelaine. So we did it as a complete test. We did it French and English to see what would work. And what's great is it was co-branded content. It was clearly labeled and written on behalf of Vichy using all the expertise of Chatelaine. 88% of consumers rated that content as engaging because we took the publisher approach. So again, I just wanted to share, depending on what your metrics are, that you can deliver. We also had, I measured scroll depth on this one, which was over 50%, meaning people went down the whole page. Scroll depth is the new number of pages read from digital from print. So that was exceptionally high as well. So just wanted to share that. So turning audiences into customers, I'm just going to keep saying it. That's the goal. This is a super cool thing, and hopefully this little video will work. My friend, oops, okay. So imagine this happening on a mobile device. This is an interactive shoppable video. Seeing here is a platform that we partnered with called Smartzr, SMARTZR. And I found it actually in Europe. And the reason that I love it is because it's super duper easy. It's there. Thank you, Joyce. You took down that's excellent. Basically, what it is, it's a platform that's a drag and drop platform. It's really not expensive. Anybody can use it. Like this is a mock-up we created in probably about 20 minutes. You have to have the existing assets or you can shoot the assets. We shot these. But really the idea here is that how do you create a really engaging video unit that's not crazy break the bank expensive to produce, that will educate consumers, convey a really, really complex, this is a beauty skincare routine. Each of these products costs about $200. You need 4 of them to do your routine every day. This is SkinCeuticals for L'Oreal. But basically create a little video that can be exported, that can be used in e-newsletters. It can be used in online. It can be used in Facebook posts. It can be used on Instagram, TikTok, etc., that allows a consumer to see it and then link directly to the e-commerce platform. This can also be done for editorial. So I've seen these done, and I'm working on examples with this in the automotive sector for seeing the interiors of cars and car attributes. I've seen some for real estate where you can basically take a look at a model suite of a condo building. I've seen this used for live events where it could literally be an event that I'm just making it up. Like let's pretend it's an interior design show. I know if you're a magazine like Western Living and you're at this interior design show and you're showing around and you want to stop and show a chair, a pop-up could happen where, you know, you could sell the chair. This is a really interesting space to be in because it's direct. It's amazing mobile experience. It's not expensive to do. When I say that, it's literally a monthly subscription fee. That's not expensive. I mean, I was able to secure one. I'm not going to tell you the number, but really, really inexpensive for our entire company, including all of our editorial brands and all of our advertisers, for a really nominal amount. Like selling one of them will pay for it. But it's something that you can, you know, certainly take. It can also be used to do event ticket sales if you're into events, etc. But this is kind of next level. Now, there are tools that you can use within Meta right now where, you know, you can have shoppable experiences, et cetera, within TikTok. You do pay those media platforms to use those tools. This one lives completely outside of it. And it ties to any e-commerce platform. The other thing I was going to say is, you saw the way that we shot the video where we've got basically it's product photography where all we're doing is doing some slight pans to go in to, or even some light flares. That's one of our tricks to create videos that aren't scripted videos that just really lift engagement and you know, get increased conversion and open rates, etc. I think that is the last thing that I had on my slide because apparently I talk really, really fast. I think that's this is what I want to say to you. This was really interesting. So the chief marketing officer of a very large consumer packaged goods company for Western Europe once said this to me. And this was 5 years ago. And this was when I was the publisher of Fashion Magazine. And what I got was, I want to do business with you. Please give me something that I can buy. And I wanted to share that because I've heard that multiple times. It's just said in different ways. You've got great relationships with advertisers. They want to work with your brands. They see the value in them. They certainly want your PR coverage. And when you don't give it, you know, the phone rings and you end up having, you know, to have a conversation with it. But create advertising products that they can actually buy. And create opportunities for them that where it is, you know, they can see results and they can get a return. And you've got great opportunities to measure ROI off of these programs. So that's, I think, the last thing that I wanted to say. And there we go. Thank you.
There are questions and I have questions. So we'll dive in. The first thing I want to ask you, well, the first thing I want to say is, I mean, clearly you've had the opportunity throughout your career to work with some amazing brands and teams, especially kind of how your technology and dev team will support building these ideas. And I think maybe for a lot of people who look at your brands and career and envy them, they don't even know where to start. So we might dig into a little bit about, you know, how do you choose some of the things that can support these activities, and also if you're a smaller brand, where might you start? Like if you were picking one of these things and you were doing none of them tomorrow,
Yep.
which one would you do?
Okay, so that's a whole bunch of questions. So I'm going to start with the first one, which is, believe it or not, everything that I've just showed you had zero dev behind it.
Mm.
Zero. That was I literally started the year out going to our CEO saying, here's a great way to create stuff out of things we already own, right? We have a website, we've got social channels, we've got great content, these are the pieces that we have. That's the playground that I work from. Extra little things like throwing in smarts or at the end, that's a platform that's separate. But literally, you know, I mean, you know, are there products I want to develop? Absolutely. Like I would love, you know, really great shoppable e-blasts and e-newsletters because I just think they would work. But I just wanted to set the level set for that. So any brand that already has a website and already has a good audience and already has good content can do any of these things. What I'm basically saying here is it's kind of about wrapping your head around what is it that your customers actually want as their end result? What does good look like for them? And then kind of reverse engineering programs that work for them that they will pay you for. It's just and quite often they don't know they exist either. So it's kind of filling that gap. And right now, where do the budgets sit for this stuff? It's kind of funny. I mean, a lot of the things I've shown you are client direct. We love that. But the PR agencies have crazy budgets right now for
Yeah.
right, for content, for reputation management, all that kind of stuff. What was your last question that you asked me, because it was a good one? Do you
I
remember?
think it was, which one would you do first if you had none of them going on? So
I would do branded content, and I would start doing it really, really well. And I would articulate what the offering was. And it might even be creating something simple, like a very small integrated package that had some branded content, whether, just to make it easy so you're not killing yourself. And I know everybody's doing that, but I would definitely, there's money in branded content and first party data. And the two kind of go together. A lot of the tactics I've shown you, they're not mutually exclusive by any means. And they're also things that publishers have already you already do it with your own brand. It's basically taking what you do for your own brand, looking up and doing it for an advertiser.
mm,
It's
yeah,
kind of that.
as I was watching the video segment, I know there are a lot of publishers and sales reps on the call today who manage brands that do food as a
Yep.
as a core. And I love the idea of using those videos to
Yeah.
introduce a new menu. You could have a great video that walks you through like a brand new menu at X restaurant, and then it could be shoppable. You could add it to a cart. Or
100%. In fact, we just did recently, the Chatelaine team is always experimenting with crazy, crazy ways of shooting. And actually it was Apple News that drove this one, because we just want to do bigger, better, because their goal now is to get front page featured. It's hilarious. But they shot, it was during the summer, they did a whole cover. It was on Ice Cream Sundays. All they did was go on set with an iPhone, and they shot a kind of like a bird's eye view of traveling through the ice cream. That thing was crazy, to the point where, I'm not telling tales out of school, but Loblaws called me and asked for a copy of the video.
yeah.
Because of the storytelling format. And I would also, by the way, with branded content, for everybody who's here, if you've got really great tried and true storytelling formats that you use in editorial, whether it's Q&As or interview, whatever it is, take those and take them to brands, because that's something that your brand is good at. So I just wanted to say that as well.
Yeah, we do have some really good past sessions that are good resources on branded content too, folks. So, and we will return to it again for sure. And somebody in the questions did specifically ask for your 7 tips. So I don't know whether that's a whole other presentation or whether you can run through them quickly. The 7 tips for branded content.
I have to remember what they are. It's good. You're going to laugh, but my first one is, it has to be good. It has to be on brand and on strategy. It has to work for both brands. If it can't be a forced fit, I'm probably going to get through about 5 of them, because I keep going back to it has to be smart. Smart was one of them. But really, it has to be something that works very, very well for both brands. If it's a forced fit and it just doesn't feel like it's the right thing to do, don't do it. The consumers will smell it in a second. So those are kind of my biggies that I can remember at the top of my head.
Okay. We'll dig those up, or we'll
You'll
ask
dig
you. Um, Katarina was asking about results reporting. This is a long question, but what's normal, and where are we finding our benchmarks for this right now?
So let me just read this question. When creating sponsored ads for an advertiser, our social media platforms, what the level of results reporting to the advertiser that is normal? It's kind of funny. It's a total reach, number of impressions, post impressions. I know. It's kind of funny, because right now we're actually data rich and insights poor, right? We've got all the numbers, but what do the numbers actually mean? The way I speak to advertisers is, you're going to laugh when I say this, I kind of ignore the benchmarks that have been set by the different platforms, because that's for consumer created, a lot of it user generated content. What I tend to do is take best in class results for what's been happening on our own media channels. So what's the best post? What's the best open rate a Chatelaine newsletters ever had? What's the best? And I kind of start there.
Mm-hmm.
I do work with what, the industry standards and IAB standards for a category. And you can find all that stuff online, like what's good look like in the beauty category and, hotel industry and healthcare, et cetera. But I really use the findings from the media brand. I typically share the goals that the editorial teams are working to for the content, because typically they are, I typically will share, the average open rate for a Chatelaine newsletter is, I'll make this up, 38%, and this one got 52. Here's why. That's kind of the way I do it. So do not underestimate, well, I guess what I'm saying is you're actually an expert without even knowing it. You don't necessarily need to go outside to the entire world to get the metrics. You can pull the general metrics, or I do 2 columns where I'll pull the general metrics and then I'll show, here's the Chatelaine benchmarks.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think that is what good looks like in the world.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. I think the having a clear picture of what yours are, and then having 1 or 2 smart places to go for a second source of data. We had Jared from Pressboard present to us last year, and he was very willing to give any kind of benchmarking data that people were after. So there are people in the industry who will share that freely, which is wonderful. Andrea says podcast is a very good format to do branded content, and that's true.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. I mean, it's like anything, it's got to be good. You've got to have that audience. It's got to be a great topic, all that kind of the usual. It's kind of like, ask yourself, like, if you wouldn't publish it in your brand anyway, don't do it in branded content. It's kind of.
But if you're touching the podcasting sphere anyway, there's the idea of white labeling. So if you're already creating podcasting content and you can sell, a podcast experience to
absolutely
do their work for them, make money off it. Why not, right?
Well, it's kind of funny because I always make a joke that the art of publishing, it's not a media platform, it's a verb, and it's something that we do that's very, very special. And we kind of forget that because we're so busy trying to sell at them and to sell them ad placements that we don't realize that the art of the creation of the content is actually highly valuable to them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I love that. Anita McGillis would like to know if you'll tell us what was the budget to Sobeys for the email acquisition campaign and for the Vichy app.
Yeah, so the Vichy program, I'm going to start with that one because that one had, and that one was kind of rate card-ish with a little bit of pluses. And remember too, I'm talking Chatelaine, so it's consumer and it's national, et cetera. But that one was really about, it was about creation of the content. There were 2 budgets. There's the media budget to support it, so double page by print, digital, social, and then the content shoot days. Now the shoot day, by the way, we did in one very efficient day. Every single piece of content, the video, the print, the social, everything was captured in a 1-day shoot efficiently. That was part of the magic. So where I'm going with that is the shoot day probably cost about 20 grand, which is not a lot considering it was a top tier fashion photographer and it was makeup artists and stylists and wardrobe and catering and all that kind of stuff. And the media portion for that was probably, I think the total was about 80,000. But again, it's national. It's a national campaign. It was boosted, et cetera. And there was a pre and post survey done around it. So it was actually a really, the value on it was about 200, 250. And then the Sobeys piece was more expensive because there was the content creation and the digital ebook, which by the way was recipes that we had.
Yeah.
We just, they just happened to have Sobeys ingredients in them by the time they got published. That one was more expensive just because it had a very, very specific performance marketing piece to it. So we worked to actually boost the audience and generate traffic to it. So that one was, that was not well north. It was north of 100, just so you know.
Okay.
That frames it. I'm being tastefully, vaguely careful.
Yep.
About not giving away the farm, but when you take media rates in it and you take all that jazz, I got thumbs up there. Okay.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Did you throw in print?
I did on the Vichy piece. Actually, no, I didn't. I kept it out, and the reason I did was just the optics was also. It's interesting because quite often, I know this really hurts, and I'm actually holding my stomach as I'm saying it. Sometimes the way that you're positioning is print becomes the added value piece, believe it or not, and all the other stuff is the stuff that they'll pay for. But if you're capturing a good margin on it and you're doing it properly, you basically can redivert. We basically just transfer the money to the print brand as media dollars. You can do that. But again, it's all how you position it to the client. I don't list anything as free, but then I also build in extra fees for those things like project management, I'm doing a big digital application right now for a major Canadian retailer that I built consultation fees into because they didn't know how to do it amongst their own organization.
Yeah.
So you get what I'm saying? Like there's different
Yeah.
ways to go
You're
about
acting
it.
as a consultant,
Yeah.
you're acting as a media buyer, you're
Yep.
acting as the agency, you're acting as the creative agency, and then
Yeah.
you're also the media. Like
Yeah.
you're providing them with a 360 solution.
Yes,
So
very much.
show me the money.
Show me the money. But again, because what's interesting though, and you're going to, hopefully I'm going to say this properly. I've had a lot of arguments over media rates and what things should cost from a media perspective because that infrastructure, it is a legacy there of nickel and diming and trying to figure out rate reductions on it. I have never had a fight with a client over the cost of producing really high quality content when I've shared with them all the costs involved and we've together made the decisions on what stays and what goes.
Okay.
Right? Like kind of taking it like, how would you renovate your kitchen? Kind of the same way, right? You
Yeah.
want these cabinets? Well, they guess what? They cost X. Here's a way to do it cheaper. So all I'm saying is that they do see value in it and they will pay for it.
So you're in Toronto. Most of the agencies in the country that do buying and creative are here. What advice do you have for our audience around starting to have these conversations, even at a much smaller scale, with local media buyers, local
Yep.
brands, local?
So this is the part that's going to get me into the most trouble. So um, most of my work that I do is client direct. And I'm not, and if to have these types of conversations, part of the problem is that depending on who the media agency is, they don't get paid to do this stuff. They don't get paid on doing it, so they tend to not promote, push it through because frankly they're not getting paid. Some of them do, depending on the scope of their assignment. So that's a tricky thing to try and find out. I would focus on, for these types of programs, the PR agencies, because they have those separate budgets that are either around, and a lot of them have branding budgets, they've got communications budgets, they've got content budgets. I would go there because they're typically the ones that are involved in product launches. They've got a very different scope of work than they would have had even 5 years ago.
Mhm.
That would be my advice. Again, you still have to be careful. The other thing I would do, you have to be careful in working with the media agency because we still don't want to be in that space where you've got salespeople who, a media agency slaps their hand for going client direct. You want to play the game nicely, but leverage your publisher, leverage editorial where you have leverage relationships is what I'm saying. So I mean, I used to always use the excuse I was the world's biggest selling publisher because I can have a conversation with the client direct. I'm not going to get the media agency's not going to slap my hand. So use what you've got, I guess is what I'm saying, but still be polite and still, obviously play the game. But you
Yes.
may find that depending on the media agency and their scope, that they, I mean, I often ask if they have innovation dollars, if they have incremental dollars for whatever. Sometimes they do.
And there's got to be at least one brand like Sobeys, let's say, in each one of our markets. I mean, we're not going to have 100 of them, but there's one. So
Oh, absolutely. It might be the local auto dealer. The scale doesn't matter.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. And I guess like if you know an innovative PR agency or an innovative marketer at one of these brands, start the conversation. Do you like to go in with kind of a somewhat baked idea of what you want to do when you start?
I usually go in with a whole bunch of questions, but I love showing case studies. And I love and even if they're not yours, if you just say, hey, I saw this thing, it's really cool. I saw it, if you haven't started yet, case studies always open conversations and they tend to put the person who's receiving it in a position where their back isn't up against the wall that you're trying to sell them, a set of steak knives. You're educating, informing, helping them. I also try very, very hard just to stay on top of technology so that I'm a resource to clients. I think, again, the more you can open up those conversations, the better. So
Mhm.
I hope that helps somewhat answer that question.
Yeah. I think the example that from Chatelaine of creating a cookbook, an ebook of recipes for Sobeys,
Yep.
any one of us should do that for subscriber acquisition. And once you've done it for your subscriber acquisition, then you have that case study to take to Sunterra or Whole Foods or
whoever it is. Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, the scale can vary. That's what they're completely scalable depending on what subject matter it is that you're, category that you're publishing in, for sure.
Yeah. I can't believe we're out of time. I do have one last question. Wendy would like to know, who all establishes what a publication's domain authority number is? That's a really good question.
It's the Wizard of Oz. It's actually, you know what it is? It's actually, I think it's a Google thing. I think it's literally the ranking that you end up with how Google, because it's all math, it's all an algorithm, where Google decides that you fit in the fold. So, and again, we're in this golden era right now where Google is 100% favoring premium content from premium sources. So work it. That's what we do.